Ever get that creepy feeling? Like your phone's listening, you're talking about something random, and then boom, there's an ad for it.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's like, how did they know?
Right. So today we're diving into big tech privacy. You shared this article, and it's seriously got some wild stuff in there. It's like I don't know, like a spy movie or something.
It's true. It's getting harder and harder to tell what's real and what's, science fiction these days, especially with all the data these companies are collecting.
Okay, so let's jump right in. This whole Google incognito mode lawsuit. I mean, incognito, it's supposed to be private, right? Like, no trace, you're a ghost.
Right, that's the idea, anonymous browsing.
But this lawsuit, it kind of blew that whole idea out of the water. And what really got me, Google deleted millions of incognito records as part of the settlement.
Yeah, that's a huge red flag. I mean,
Okay.
why delete it if it wasn't something, they shouldn't have had in the first place?
Exactly. So why the slap on the wrist? Deleting evidence like that, you'd think there'd be bigger consequences.
Well, the legal system, it's complicated. These big class action suits, they usually end in settlements, right? Money changes hands, promises are made, but things don't really change. So Google gets off easy, pretty much. And it's not just Google, though, right? The article talks about Facebook, their shadow profiles, and Amazon with Alexa listening in, and even Google tracking location. Even when you turn it off, it's like they just keep pushing the limit.
And getting away with it, it seems. It makes you wonder, like, where's the line?
Right. It's like, why are they so obsessed with our data? They're already making tons of money.
Well, data is money. The more they know, the better they can target us with ads.
So it's all about those targeted ads.
Not just ads, think about it. They can predict what we'll do, what we'll buy. They can even sell that information.
So it's like, we get these free services, but we're paying with our privacy.
That's the trade-off, right? The question is it worth it? That is the question. But there is some pushback happening, right? Like more lawsuits, bigger fines. Didn't Meta lose like, what, 10 billion when Apple changed their privacy rules?
Yeah, Apple made apps ask permission before tracking, and that hit Meta hard.
So maybe things are starting to change.
It's a start.
Yeah.
People are becoming more aware. They're demanding more control.
And it's not just here, right? The article mentioned Germany, how they let Facebook users sue even without, like, financial damage.
Right, and the U.S. banning TikTok on government devices.
Yeah.
So it's definitely becoming a bigger issue.
But, thinking about the U.S. government, like Congress, a lot of them, they didn't grow up with the internet. Do you think they even understand, like, how all this works?
It's a good point. There's definitely a generational gap there. But the fact that it's being talked about at that level, that's a good sign, right?
I guess so. So it seems like people are finding ways to fight back on their own, too.
Oh, yeah, definitely. People are taking their privacy seriously.
It's inspiring to see that pushback, people taking action. Speaking of which, the article mentioned VPNs and privacy-focused apps. Can you break those down for us? What are they exactly, and how do they actually help?
Sure. So VPNs, virtual private networks, imagine it's like, a secret tunnel for your internet traffic.
A secret tunnel. Okay, I'm listening.
Instead of sending your information directly, it goes through this tunnel so websites and trackers don't know where you're browsing from.
Ah, so it's like hiding your location.
Exactly. And then you have privacy-focused apps. These are alternatives to the big guys like Google or Facebook. They're built with privacy as a priority, like from the ground up.
So different search engines, email providers, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Search engines that don't track you, email with encryption, messaging apps that are end-to-end encrypted, so only you and the person you're talking to can see the messages.
So it's like taking your data elsewhere if the big companies won't respect your privacy.
Right. It's about making a choice. And the more people choose privacy-focused options, the more these companies will grow.
It's like voting with your wallet, kind of.
Exactly. But even with all these options, it still feels like, we're up against these giant corporations.
David versus Goliath, right? Can we really make a difference?
Well, remember, there's power in numbers. Class action lawsuits, boycotts, public pressure campaigns, they can all force change. Like, remember the whole hashtag delete Facebook thing a few years ago?
Oh, yeah, that was huge.
You might not have taken Facebook down, but it definitely made them pay attention to privacy, at least for a while.
It showed them we're not just going to sit back and let them do whatever they want.
Right. And speaking of hitting them where it hurts, Apple's privacy changes, forcing apps to ask permission to track. Meta lost billions because of that.
So it shows that even one company taking a stand can have a big impact.
For sure. Actions speak louder than words, right? And the article also talked about governments getting involved, like the U.S. banning TikTok on government devices.
Right. Are there other examples of governments actually doing something about data privacy.
Yeah, definitely. The European Union, they have some of the toughest data privacy laws in the world.
Like GDPR, I've heard of that, but not really sure what it is.
Yeah, GDPR, it stands for General Data Protection Regulation. It's basically a set of rules that gives you more control over your data. Like, you have the right to see what data companies have on you, correct it if it's wrong, even have it deleted.
So it's like putting the power back in the hands of the individual.
Exactly. And it has real consequences for companies that break the rules, big fines, like up to 4% of their global revenue.
Okay, now that's a serious penalty. So it's not just Europe, right?
Sure.
What about the US? The article mentioned that antitrust case against Google.
Yeah, the U.S. government's been looking into big tech more and more lately. This case against Google, it's about them using their power in search and advertising to, squash the competition.
So what could happen if Google loses?
Well, the government wants some pretty big changes. They're even talking about breaking Google up into smaller companies.
Wow, that would be huge. A real shakeup in the tech world.
It would definitely send a message that no one is above the law. It's like David versus Goliath, but this time David's got lawsuits and regulations on his side.
I like that analogy. And it does feel like things are shifting. People are waking up, demanding more control. Governments are stepping in. The tech industry can't ignore it anymore.
So, is there hope for privacy? Can we actually create a digital world where our data is safe?
That's the big question, isn't it? It's not going to be easy. We need stronger laws, responsible companies, and people need to be more informed. But I do think a more privacy-conscious future is possible. We just have to keep pushing for it.
It really does feel like we're at a turning point. But beyond the lawsuits and regulations, are there any other new ideas or technologies out there that could help? Something that could really make a difference for privacy.
That's a great question. And actually, yeah, there's a lot of innovation happening in the privacy space. One thing that's super interesting is privacy-enhancing technologies, or PTs.
PTs.
Yeah.
Like the animals. Uh-huh. Not quite. Think of PTs as tools and techniques that help us analyze data without, compromising anyone's privacy.
Okay, so not the furry kind. But I'm still intrigued. How does that work?
So imagine you're studying traffic patterns in a city. Normally, you'd need data on individual cars, right? Their license plates, where they're going. But with PETs, you could analyze traffic flow without ever needing those specific details.
So it's like getting the big picture without the personal stuff.
Exactly. You get the insights without the individual information.
That's pretty cool. Are there any real world examples of how these PTs are being used?
Yeah, definitely. One example is differential privacy. It's a way to add noise to data sets, so it's hard to identify individuals, but you can still see the overall trends. They're using this in healthcare for research.
So they can study patient data without putting anyone at risk.
Right. It's about finding that balance between research and privacy.
That's amazing. It's like we can have both. What else is out there?
Well, there's homomorphic encryption, which is pretty wild. It lets you do calculations on encrypted data without ever decrypting it.
Okay, that sounds like some serious science fiction stuff.
It kind of is, but it's real, and it has huge potential for protecting privacy.
So with all this, are we actually heading toward a future where privacy is truly valued online? Or is that just a pipe dream?
I think we are. The technology is there, and people are starting to demand it. But it's not just about the tech. It's about changing how we think about data.
Not just seeing it as something to be mined and exploited.
Exactly. Data is personal. It deserves to be protected.
So how do we make that happen? Is it all about laws and new technology?
Laws are important, but it's also about empowering individuals. We need to teach people how to protect their own privacy.
Like digital literacy, right?
Exactly. Understanding how their data is used, what their rights are, and that education needs to start early with kids.
It's like we need a whole new set of rules for the internet, like digital ethics.
Absolutely. And those ethics should be built into how we design technology from the ground up.
So privacy isn't just an afterthought.
Right. It needs to be baked into the DNA of the internet. It's about creating a digital world where privacy is a fundamental right, not an option.
That's a powerful vision. And it feels like with everything we've talked about today, there's real hope for making it a reality.
I agree. It's going to take all of us, individuals, companies, governments, working together.
Well, this has been an amazing deep dive. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us. I hope this encourages everyone listening to, take their privacy seriously and get involved.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure. And remember, stay curious, stay informed, and stay vigilant about your privacy. It's more important now than ever.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks again for joining us, and to everyone listening, stay tuned for more deep dives into the world of tech and privacy.